Reem Alabali Radovan. What brought you to Nairobi and what are you expecting for your visit here?
Kenya is an important partner country for development cooperation. We have a long-standing relationship which we want to strengthen, especially the economic cooperation. Kenya is the biggest economy in East Africa, and we see a lot of potential when it comes to German investment, especially when it comes to healthcare, and also Kenya is a strategic partner for us when it comes to multilateralism. So there's a lot of common interest, and this is why it was important to me, even though we are in a difficult time also in the region, to come here and strengthen our relationship.
You've already said it, there are many crises around the world, not just in the region, but in Iran, Ukraine, Gaza. So how important is Germany's relationship to Africa at the moment?
Of course, we are also, as German government, dealing with the crises going on right now. And as a development minister, for me, it's important to show our partners in the regions that we are a reliable partner, and that even though we are facing all these crises, we put a lot of focus also on our partnerships, especially when it comes to African countries. We are also, of course, looking at the implications of, for example, the war in Iran, the blockade of the Strait on Hormuz for the region, which there is a huge implication. And this is why I'm also here to talk about that.
You came here partly to meet leaders, to meet health experts as well. Now the global health landscape is changing a lot because the US pulled out of WHO. They've also cut a lot of aid. Germany has also cut aid, but are you hoping to fill part of that gap, and are you taking a stronger role in international institutions?
The cuts from the US government, especially in the global health sector, are very painful, and we can see them looking at multilateral funds like Gavi and the fund for the instrument for vaccines and the global fund, which is combating malaria and HIV and tuberculosis. And we cannot fill the gap alone. But at the same time, I said we did a reform. I did a strategic reform on German development cooperation, and looking at what the United States are doing, I said we will put a big focus on global health, even though we cannot fill in the gap. We will not pull out of global health, and this is why I'm also here. The World Health Summit, the regional conference of the World Health Summit, is in Nairobi, and I think we want to strengthen also the German-African partnership when it comes to economy in the health sector. And we are seeing, especially in Kenya, we are already seeing very good steps of German pharma companies like Merck, for example, who are working here together in producing vaccines or producing medicines with Kenyan companies, Universal for combating special diseases. So we are seeing important steps taking place, and we want to strengthen that in the future.
And talking specifically about Kenya, you've already met President Ruto. What do you hope for the general relationship between Kenya and Germany in terms of development? And you also spoke about the focus on economic cooperation. So maybe you can talk about that.
As I said, Kenya is the biggest economy in East Africa, and we are also shifting our partnership more to economic cooperation, which is based on win-win, which is based on common interest. I spoke to President Ruto about that. We want to see where we have common interests in German companies coming here and providing also good jobs. This is very important to us. So it's not only about economic cooperation in general, but it's about also creating good, decent jobs, about providing vocational training, which is going very well in Kenya, and there is some hurdles. We want to tackle them, especially when it comes to reaching rural areas of Kenya, and we want to work together on that. We will have a German-Kenyan business dialogue in June in Berlin, and I'm looking forward to strengthening that relationship. We have 120 German companies in Kenya, and I think it can be way more.
part of the critique of development aid or development cooperation has always been that it is ineffective, that the countries are basically standing still, stagnating. Do you think this new strategy of more economic cooperation will help address this?
First of all, let me say that especially in Kenya, we can see that development cooperation works, and it worked. We see an increase in life expectancy. We see a decrease of child death at birth. We see a high literacy. It is at 80%. 93% of energy in Kenya is from renewables. We invested in that, especially as German Development Corporation, as a ministry. So we are seeing very, very good outcomes. Of course, there's way more to tackle, and I think now as Kenya is becoming also a middle income country and is becoming more of that in the future, we need to shift more towards economic cooperation. But of course, we're still working on development, especially when it comes to the youth, when it comes to energy, climate, issues of health. We are still invested there. We are still a reliable partner, but we're looking more for an approach which sees common interest and win-win for both sides.
Looking at Kenya in particular and looking at the growth you've just mentioned, all the steps that have been taken that you've just mentioned, do you have examples of, or do you have an example of a project of work that has worked over the past few years?
I will look at examples today in Nairobi, especially when it comes to vocational training. So we have schools who they provide vocational training for young Kenyans who can learn and work here in Kenya. They can get good qualification for work in Kenya, but they can also learn German, and with their qualifications they could potentially come to Germany. So I think especially in that field of migration, when it comes to young Kenyans who want to come and work in Germany, we are seeing good approaches there, and we also want to strengthen that in the future.